and welcome to Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Church. Welcome to this inclusive space. Welcome all members and friends and guests here in person and virtually. My name is James Coombs, and I'm a member of your Board of Trustees. Neighborhood Church creates and grows an inclusive community of faith connected by love, spirit, and service. We acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territories of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples, the traditional caretakers of the lands and waters of this campus. With respect to the rights and wisdom of Indigenous people, we acknowledge our harmful colonial histories and commit to decolonizing our own practices, to learning new ways of being in community, in good relationship with the Indigenous peoples of this land and with the land itself. Today's service is led by our interim minister, Reverend Dr. Teresa Cooley, with music by Dr. Zenaida Robles, Wells Lang, the Neighborhood Church Bell Choir led by F. Thomas Simpson. Please take a moment to silence your devices as we begin our service. And thank you for joining us as we continue to prioritize connection over perfection in this hybrid service, which is streamed live and recorded on YouTube. Based on guidance from our COVID safety team, masks are recommended, though optional, for congregants inside and are optional outside. Families with young children are welcome in the sanctuary, in the narthex, or in our new family lounge located in the living room of Neighborhood House, where this service is streamed live on a big screen TV. The lounge is staffed by a host to help you at home. And we have a few announcements for you this morning. Our writing group and Pastries with Pagans are both taking place at 1 p.m. today here on campus following this service. And specifically, Pastries with Pagans will be exploring the magic of manifestation, with the new year being a great time to look at the goals and intentions of 2023. This group will explore different ways to support manifesting our desires, which include prayer, visualization, and other methods to empower ourselves and to tap into the energy that we call magic. Bring a notepad and pen with you to use during the activity, and don't forget to bring a yummy pastry if you've got one. If you are new or looking to find your center after the storms of winter, drop into a small group called a Chalice Circle at the Neighborhood House after this service or after any service on Sundays at 1 p.m., any first Sunday at 1 p.m. As a Buddhist Pema Chodron says, "You are the sky, everything else is just weather." And real important, our Dining for Dollars events are finalized. Browse this year's catalog of event offerings by following the link in this week's newsletter, and save the dates for the live days to bid at church on January 22nd and January 29th on the patio between and after services. This year, our campaign features events through the entire 2023 calendar year, including a football game. All proceeds from bidding help our church financially. This is a great way to meet church members and make new friends. Today on the patio, you can get flyers and more information from Martin Matthews and the rest of the committee. And our order of service and more extensive announcements are available as a link in this Sunday's email, posted on the narthex or through the QR code on the back of your hymnal. You can always get more information on these and many other activities at the welcome table. And again, welcome to Neighborhood Church. Whoever you are and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, welcome to this inclusive faith community connected by love, spirit, and service.
Before we begin our service, I want to explain to you why you have note cards in your hands. This is what I call our annual question box service, in which you can write down a question that you can submit to. James is going to be walking up and down the aisles while we collect the offering, and you can just wave your hands and give him a card. That would be great. And then right at the beginning of this sermon, you also have another chance in case something pops into your head. But I wanted to give you a chance to think about it. It can be about Unitarian Universalism. It can be about this church. It can be about the meaning of life, anything. I don't necessarily have an answer to that one, but I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you about the things that are on your mind. Bless this year with its cracks that will show. May flowers grow in the cracks that emerge. Bless this year with its sighs that will come. May some of the sighs be because we have this moment. Bless this year when we drop an intention or a heart. May we pick up what we drop if it is worth carrying. Bless this year when the old stories start to be told again. May we not wait to the end to tell them differently, but know that rewrites can happen in the middle, too. Bless this year when the grief comes, as it will. May we let grief draw the colors around us more vividly and wake us up to what matters. Bless this year the real version, the untarnished version, the put in a closet before company comes version, the half-scuffed version, the one that tells us that the real blessing includes all of this. Come, let us worship together.
Our opening hymn is number 293 in the gray hymnal or on the screens above. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing 293, O Star of Truth.
Morning. I'm Matt Vasco, the Director of Spiritual Exploration, and it's wonderful to have you all here with me this morning. That's the new name, that's right. Somebody caught that. Spiritual Exploration. We explore the spiritual together as we all go down our own spiritual journey. So, because we have our bells set up here. I think I'm going to ask the children and youth to just stay in your seats with your parents or guardians this morning. I'm going to read us a story. Let me start by saying the January Soul Matters theme is finding our center. And I think when we work toward finding our center, it calls us to think about who we want to be. Who do we want to be? And so as we think about who do we want to be, maybe you can put a little of that thought into those cards you've got there at your seats this morning. And this book is called The Me I Choose to Be. And it's written by Natasha Anastasia Tarpley with art by Regis and Karen Bethencourt. Some may think they know who I am, but here's what you must understand. My creativity and curiosity flow without end. And if I meet an obstacle, I just begin again. I am a planet, a limitless galaxy, and I am the me I choose to be. I am hope passed down through generations. I am a bridge builder connecting people and nations. I am a weaver of words that quickly take flight and stretch into stories fluttering off into the night. I am a conjurer, imagining realms that aren't yet there. I am a maker, a creator, shaping a new world we all can share. My creativity and curiosity flow without end. And if I meet an obstacle, I just begin again. I am a planet, a limitless galaxy, and I am the me I choose to be. I am joyful, as bubbly as a rushing river. I am sad as a trickling tear. I am a tiny bird watching the world from afar. I am a friend who loves to be near. And there's something else about me that may be harder to see. I am not that cool. I don't always know what to say. And every so often I go the wrong way. Sometimes it seems I have 2 left feet, but that just means I am a free spirit. I move to the rhythm of my own heartbeat. I am a star dancing across the night sky. I am the night sky, unnoticed as stars fly by. It's hard not to care when people pretend you aren't there, but then I remember. My creativity and curiosity flow without end. And if I meet an obstacle, I just begin again. I am a planet, a limitless galaxy, and I am the me I choose to be. I am a superhero, yet unnamed. I am laughter that falls like rain, making room for joy to grow. I am a gardener, planting dreams the world will know. I am wind with the strength to bend trees. I am light, traveling the universe with ease. I am the winding road to a fantastic adventure. I am a home where love lives at the center. I am all these things and more, you see, because I am the me I choose to be. The end.
Giving is a spiritual practice through which we put our values into action. And each Sunday, this congregation dedicates 100% of contributions to a local social justice organization or activity. If you're visiting for the first or second time, welcome. You are our guest. Please let the plate pass you by. In addition to the plate, online giving is available using the QR code on the donations box just outside the sanctuary or using the text shown on the screen here. If you're a member and wish to make a payment towards your pledge or wish to make a gift, please make a note in the subject line or use an envelope available at the donation box. And this week, our gifts go to Aspires West. Here to tell us about Aspires West is Dr. Ardra Grubbs, who is a member of our neighbor, Scott United Methodist Church, right up the street. She has provided extensive leadership to her home church at the California State University of Long Beach and with Aspires West since 1992. Dr. Grubbs, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning. After listening to that story, I feel great. Your church here, neighborhood church, has so much in common with us across the street. I have spoken to several people this morning about Dr. Paul Jewett, and so far, I have yet to meet someone who recalls, because he was as old as I am now. How many remember Dr. Jewett? No one? Great theologian, used to come over and exchange the pulpit at Scott Church right across the street. And for a time, we thought, maybe we should steal him and bring him over to our church. He was a great theologian. And thinking of great theologians, it reminds me, our program, the one that I'm going to talk to you about for just a few minutes today, was begun by a great theologian. He was a marvelous man who could make you feel so at ease. He did not walk around saying, I am the man of the cloth, but he demonstrated who he was through his love for children. And so when he visited the East Coast, he went into a program, a workshop, that had to do with bringing children back into the realm of the church and into the realm of the home and into the realm of the school as a cooperating entity. In 1992, how many of you can remember the most profound thing about 1992 in our area? Anybody? Nobody that old? Nobody here as old as I am? Okay. We were going, yes, rioting was happening in Southern California, especially in Los Angeles. Fires were being set. Children were running rampant. We could see the smoke here in Pasadena. And the children were affected here in Pasadena too. Some people thought, oh, that's happening in Los Angeles. We are Pasadena. Nothing like that happens here. In fact, we did have 2 fires that were set here on Allen Avenue. And our children were somewhat in the same category as the children in Los Angeles, dropping out of school. Our school population declined something like maybe 3 or 4%. We had gangs at that time. Some of you probably don't remember what a gang is, but we had young people running rampant even here in Pasadena causing trouble. And there was a disinterest in school. Children just turned away, didn't care whether they went to school or not. Grades were falling, and parents were really confused as to what was going on. But it was across the entire nation, it seemed, that we were having this trouble. So when a man of the cloth went back east, and he sat in on a very, very important program, a meeting that changed our lives here in Pasadena, because it felt as though our school board really did not know what to do to stop the problems. But he brought back an idea. He said, I went to Detroit, I sat in on a meeting, and it appears that what they're doing can help us here in Pasadena. So he brought it to our church across the street and talked to our minister, Reverend Hammond, at that time. And so Reverend Hammond then stated, Dr. Rogers, he was a theologian at Claremont School of Divinity, and he said, I'll listen to you, Pastor Hammond. What do you have to say? Somehow she said, we might be able to help the schools, do you think? And he said, well, that's why I'm here. I came to Scott to tell you about a place that was in great trouble, and we don't want Pasadena to get to that point. So perhaps we can somehow rally together this neighborhood and stop the problems from hitting us as hard as they are in the East or like Los Angeles. We really don't want our city burned down. We don't want any more juvenile delinquents, as they called them at that time. And so he called on two people, two educators. Some of you might know Dr. Jackie Jacobs. How many of you know her? Some of you have perhaps met her. Her husband, Dr. David Jacobs. I just call them Jackie and David from now on, so we won't get them confused. But they brought the idea to our church and asked some of us whether or not we would like to help them in their quest to bring peace to the school districts. And we all volunteered, and that's how I began. And last week, Jackie called and said, Ardra, I have to go out of town, and so I'd like for you to go over to Neighborhood Church and talk to them and thank them for what they're doing for us, giving us some dollars that we really can use to help us promote our program. And so I'm here to thank you on behalf of Aspires, Pasadena's Aspires West. And we call it West because this idea started in the East and moved to the West, so we are called Aspires West. But the whole idea is to reach students, to give them hope that they are good people, they can achieve, they can progress. And as I sat this morning looking to and listening to what you were saying from your hymnal, where you have a statement here about the inherent worth and dignity of every person. That's in the very beginning of your hymnal. And then I took a look at one of our brochures from our own, and we have left a few of these around, and we're going to give more of these to you. And some of you might have been in a meeting with our pastor across the street, our Scott pastor, who might have had a few of these to show you. But we had that same vision 31 years ago. And it says, Aspires West Pasadena is committed to a vision that all people are of infinite worth. And in your hymnal, it says that same thing. People are of infinite worth. And so the idea was that we wanted our young people 31 years ago to feel that they were of infinite worth. And so you had the same vision that we had. We had to turn things around. And so we did through this organization. So people throughout Pasadena, some we call role models, those people in the community whom we admire for their lifestyles, for their commitment to their church, for their commitment to the buildings around them, to the businesses they have built. They came with us, they came to the church, and then of course the parents were not left out. And we said we have to do something to turn our children around so they will not be like the children in Los Angeles. Not in a negative way, but we just didn't want Pasadena burned down. We didn't want any more gangs. We wanted children to achieve. And so we organized. You're going to be getting some more brochures that look like this, Aspires West Pasadena. How many of you have seen these? If not, we'll get them into your hands. Then, of course, we're going to see that you get a book like this called Aspires West Pasadena 2022 Role Models. Does anybody now have a copy of this that we might have left this morning? If not, we'll see that you get this too. Somebody in the back has one. Raise it up really high in the back. She got one? Okay, good. It tells our story. It tells a story of how this wonderful man who went to the meeting and came back to Pasadena and brought us the program, stating that we know that when we are in trouble, meaning a community, we have 3 great institutions that we can count on to bring us forward. And what are those 3 institutions? I'm a professor now, I'm teaching. What are they? Church. School. Home. Church, home, and community equals community. That's a little algebraic equation there, right? And so they came together and decided that we are going to try to reach all of those children and all of those parents who need help. And what better way than to go to the schools? Isn't that what we do anyway? Whenever we have a problem, we go to the schools, right? And the teachers complain, how much more do you have to put on us in this classroom? Yes, we count on the schools to help us, right? So, what greater way to reach the children, to teach them that they're on the wrong path, than to have these 3 great organizations work together? And that's what Aspires is. And so, in this book, you will find some of our children telling their story, how Aspires has helped them, what they would like to do after graduation, and so forth. And mentioning that, let me tell you that our program is designed in such a way that we meet the needs of students from grades 3 through 12. And then, of course, we make sure that those students get enrichment, those who would like to. And then we have students who graduate, and we call them Aspire Scholars. And we ensure that they have monetary means to get into college. And we also do something else. We make sure that each of those graduating seniors throughout Pasadena has a computer. And so when they go to university, they are ready. Unlike my generation, we thought it was really something when we had an electric typewriter. We thought that was the end to all means of technology. But we have wonderful people in this city who give us money. We have especially an attorney and his daughter every year who give computers. We started out in 1992 giving monetary awards to 10 students. Now we average about 6 through 10. And so you know what computers cost. And so they come to us, and they have proven to us that they are ready to go now. And so with cooperation between home, school, and family, we have had some wonderful things happen to some of these young people, and you can find them in books like this. And I was just talking very briefly about a young woman this morning who now is in college. She's at Purdue University. And I am the person who writes the abstracts about these students and refine them so that they can go into this book. And so when she wrote me her paper, I called her, and she said, oh, Dr. Grubbs, don't call me on the telephone anymore. Please send me an email or send me a whatever. And I said, oh, all right. And I told her, I'm reading your abstract now. Are you sure that this is the kind of career you're going to embark upon? And she said, oh, yes. I said, you're not sure you want to be a teacher or preacher or whatever? My time is up?
Go ahead finish up.
Okay, almost. And you know what she wanted to do? She wanted to be an avian, a veterinarian for avian species, exotic species. So that shows you what our students can become. But very quickly, I just want to say this. We still need your help other than monetary. We want you to stop by Aspires. We're at 119 East Washington Boulevard. You know the venerable old church there on the corner of Washington and Our Street? That's where we're located. Come by, see what we do. But we need you to help us. Our program is structured around the fact that we have a one-on-one type of program where one mentor or teacher works with one student. So if any of you can help us, we need you to come, even if you give us an hour, to help us with our students, to instruct them, and to help them move ahead toward that point where we will be ready to have them walk across the stage, accept a monetary award, and accept that computer. And thank you for the money that you're giving us for this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gross.
I have one more thing to say. One more thing to say. I started out this morning in service telling everybody it was going to take more than 3 minutes because I was told to speak 3 minutes. Well, you can forgive me because number one, I am a teacher, And number two, because I am a Southerner and it takes us a little bit longer.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Dr. Grubbs, do you want to come this way, down the ramp? There we go. We'll have you go down the ramp over here. Let's go ahead and bring the plates forward, and I will also start collecting cards.
For our offertory anthem, the Shepherd's Psalm, we are delighted to welcome Ellen Rosenblatt on flute today. Prayer from New Day's Lyric by Amanda Gorman. May this be the day we come together. Mourning we come to mend. Withered we come to weather. Torn we come to tend. Battered we come to better. Tethered by this year of yearning, we are learning that though we weren't ready for this, we have been readied by it. We steadily vow that no matter how we are weighted down, we must always pave a way forward. This hope is our door, our portal. Even if we never get back to normal, someday we can venture beyond it to leave the known and take the first steps. So let us not return to what was normal, but reach toward what is next. What was cursed, we will cure. What was plagued, we will prove pure. Where we tend to argue, we will try to agree. Those fortunes we forswore, now the future we foresee.
Where we weren't aware, we're now awake. Those moments we missed are now these moments we make, the moments we meet and our hearts, once all together beaten, now all together beat. Come, look up with kindness yet, for even solace can be sourced from sorrow. We remember not just for the sake of yesterday, but to take on tomorrow. We heed this old spirit in a new day's lyric. In our hearts we hear it. For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, be bold, sang time this year. Be bold, sang time. For when you honor yesterday, tomorrow ye will find. Know what we fought need not be forgot for none. Come over, join this day just begun. For wherever we come together, we will forever overcome.
Some people say that the prominent symbol of Unitarian Universalism is the question mark, and you are here to prove that with all of your questions. I unfortunately won't be able to get to all of them, but hopefully it gives me inspiration for what you need to hear about in the future. So it's very helpful for me to know what's on your mind. And I'm going to begin with one I received online, as I promised I would get to it during this service. So the question is, one of our sources is wisdom from the world's religions, which inspire us in our ethical and spiritual life. Some aspects of world religions are impacted by local or national social practices. So how do we identify those that are ethical? There's a very interesting question. So let me begin by pointing out, as you did, that in the front of our hymnal are our purposes and principles, as well as the sources from which we draw our inspiration. And I think it's important to recognize that everything falls from the first one, the very first one, which is that we honor the inherent worth and dignity of every person. So if we hold that as our guiding star, then it helps us discern from within these sources, which are multiple, which ones are guiding us ethically. Because Unitarian Universalism is about how we act on our beliefs. People come with different perspectives, different beliefs, different backgrounds, but what's important to us is how we act on them. And so we need some inspiration about how to act on those beliefs, and some of these sources give us some ideas of that. So for example, in Islam, there is the practice of Ramadan. How many of you have heard of Ramadan? It is an entire month of spiritual practice of fasting during the day, and then finally breaking their fast at night. But the reason that they do that is so that they can feel closer to their spiritual understandings of what is most important, and really explicitly how they can feel closer to an understanding of how to give back, of how to give to the community that surrounds them, of how to give so that the world will be a better place. So that, to me, is an inspiration to an ethical act and a challenge for me. Would I be able to do that kind of sacrifice? Would I be able to really dwell that long on the question of how can I give? So, and that's guided again by that first principle of the inherent worth and dignity of every person, which would be helpful if we could really dwell upon it in the way that Muslims do. So, questions. What is the difference between a Unitarian and a Universalist? Which is often very confusing for people. So Unitarian Universalists merged in 1961, and they were movements that grew up parallel to one another. And both of them were reactions against the congregational movement that was predominant at the time in the 17th, 18th, 19th century, 18th century. And Unitarians were uncomfortable with the idea that that all had to be interpreted through religious authority. Because Unitarians said, we can read the Bible ourselves, and we can interpret the Bible for ourselves. We don't necessarily need the mediation of those authorities. And back to this idea of inherent worth and dignity, that we have the ability, it was honoring everyone's ability to come to spiritual truths on their own, which is radically different from what was predominant at the time. Universalists were reacting against the Calvinistic idea of an angry God, the idea that God will damn people unless there's a very arcane kind of concept that God decided at the very beginning of time who was going to be saved and who was not, way back. So that was kind of a disincentive to ethical action, right? If you didn't know you were going to be saved or not. So Universalists were saying, we actually believe in a loving God. We believe that God loves us into better ways of being. And that was a radical notion for the time. Most religions, most Christian religions, began to adopt that over time, right? So in some ways, they were the precursors to what a lot of other Christian religions did. So they were kind of parallel ideas, both of them reacting against something. And then they gradually got closer and closer, recognizing that they were having very similar ideas about religion. So they merged in 1961. But I think that we often lose our Universalist ideas. We lose that we often say, we're just Unitarian. Well, that word is important. That second word is important. So, and I preached about Universalism recently, so you can go back and listen. I love this question. Is there a pope or president of Unitarian Universalism? Is it you? I wish. There is a president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, and that president is the first woman president of the UUA. Her name is Susan Frederick Gray. Wonderful, wonderful, inspiring president. And they are elected by our General Assembly, which is the conference every summer in which congregations come together to make decisions on behalf of the whole association. And one of those important decisions is who leads us. So this coming summer, they will be electing a new president, because the term was a 6-year term, which was a new thing this time. So it is, again, like everything Unitarian Universalist, a grassroots notion and a grassroots understanding of what is important in that leader to take us forward. There's a bunch of other questions, so I'm going to go on with this one. Do you have any ideas for how to be patient while the search committee does their work? So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Neighborhood Church is in search for a called minister, a more permanent minister than I am as interim. And I'm impatient too, I promise. Right now, what's happening is that the search committee has received the names of people who are interested in Neighborhood Church. And what I understand, a little birdie told me that they are very pleased with the names that they have received. They feel like there's great potential with all of those folks. And so it's been really helpful to know that I knew that was going to happen, because I know what a great church Neighborhood is. But now they're sorting through those names to decide who they will pre-candidate in the next few months, which will involve interviewing intensively 3 or 4 people over the space of an entire weekend, as well as listening to them preach at a neighboring church. So it is a long process, but it's an important process. I think we all understand, given some of the challenges that you've had in the past few years, that we want to take our time, that it's important to take our time to do this process well, and to really get to know these candidates so that they can bring you the best possible minister, who you will be able to meet at the end of April. You can handle it. I know you can. It's all right. I've been trying to pray again, and I find myself asking, who or what am I praying to? Sometimes I imagine all the compassion, love in the world, and I pray to that. I would love to explore more the act and intention behind prayer. That's a really lovely, lovely question. I think that I would hold that as a wonderful object of prayer, all the love and compassion in the world. I think that this concept that we are praying to a being that is going to grant our wishes is a fairly antiquated concept. I think even Christians and Jews and a lot of people understand that they're not praying to get something. They're praying to be in relationship with something. And to be in relationship with love and compassion is an absolutely wonderful aspiration. There is a group that does look at spiritual practices that Matt is leading this year. So you can talk to Matt about that if you want to join in. I think it's too late to join in that one, but there will be another one next year. But I really love to take apart that notion that we have to pray to something, and instead we pray to be in relationship with something. After the holidays, how can we reconcile in our conscience the pleasure of spending money on gifts and socializing with the duty of helping others through charity donations? It's a really good question, because we often talk about the holidays as being a time in which we splurge on things, or splurge on things that may not be so important to us, and instead to try to shift our attention to how do we want to give to the world? How do we want to give to what is important? How do we want to give to organizations like Aspires so that we can feel like we're contributing to something greater in the world? Another question that I got that sort of relates to this is, why am I being asked for money all the time at Neighborhood Church? And I know it feels that way. I know it does. Every Sunday we ask you to contribute to another local organization. We ask you to pledge so that we can have an ongoing sense of how much money we will have to go forward. We also ask you to give to Dining for Dollars, which is a great way to make friends and get to know people, but the money for those events goes to Neighborhood Church. So the thing to understand about us is that we don't have anybody else giving us money. We are completely self-sustaining as an organization, and in fact, we support the larger institution of the Unitarian Universalist Association, because we want to see those values go out into the world. So for me, back to this question, I tithe. I spend 10% of my income, not just on the church, but on organizations that I really believe in their mission. And that's a really important spiritual discipline for me. And what I find in that, especially when I put aside that money before I even see it, I have it going out before I even think about, oh, I could spend that on this, or I could spend that on this. And I feel so much better about that money than I do on what I bought on Amazon the other day. So I think that kind of spiritual discipline is something that can be an antidote to the commercialism of the holidays. So aside from the 8 principles, how do you think we can make Unitarian Universalism more spiritual without simply borrowing traditions from other religions? And I think that, sort of related to the question about prayer, I think the way in which we can make our practices more spiritual is to develop our own spiritual practices. That's sort of a turning around on that, but to take on the discipline of perhaps prayer, and there are guides that I can offer for that, or take on different kinds of spiritual practices, journaling, different, walking the labyrinth is another one, that allow you to get in touch with that deeper part of yourself and the deeper understandings of what is important to you. It can be difficult for us in a UU setting to come to offer a spiritual practice that everybody will agree on. Doesn't happen very often, I promise. You don't, there will be somebody who will say, I don't agree with that practice. But, so we try to incorporate some of those things, and we could do a better job of incorporating them in worship. But it's also, again, in line with our Unitarian Universalist understandings, it's also about you. It's also about what kind of practice you can develop. And I would be happy to talk with anybody who wants to pursue that a little bit more. So please explain the UU connection to the Bible. To some extent, you can go back and watch YouTube. I preached about this a few weeks ago. I preached mostly about Jesus, but our connection to the Bible is, again, it's one of those sources that has provided us with wisdom over time that we return to, and some people return to it on a regular basis. It's a part of their spiritual practice to gain something important from the Bible because there is a lot of wisdom there. But it really comes back to those early impulses, which were to say, we use the Bible as a way to help ourselves understand what's important, or we use the Bible as a way to understand God as a loving presence. So some people don't use that. A lot of people in UU circles don't use that, but its wisdom is still with us. It's something that we still have the wisdom from that helps inspire us on a day-to-day basis. So, on a day-to-day basis, do you think that people are doing the best they can? I wish. I think it's a challenge. It's hard. It's very hard to do the best that we can, and I think that what we do coming to church is to remember why that's important, right? That being a part of this community helps remind us that it is our obligation to be the best citizen we can be, to be the best neighbor we can be, to be the best member of our family that we can be. All of us fall short in that. And one of the things that I think is missing from Unitarian Universalism is an understanding of sin and forgiveness. We don't talk very often about making mistakes, but we should, because we all do. And we also don't offer a ritual for forgiveness, which I think we should. But all of us fall short every single day, and all of us have the potential to do better. And being a part of a community like this, I think, gives us an opportunity to really dwell on that question of how we can be better people. I'm going to offer you one last answer. So Matt asked me several months ago, he said, what is the meaning of life? And I responded quite honestly, I don't know. I mean, I do have some ideas. I do have some ideas about it. I don't remember saying that to him, but Matt gave a wonderful answer, so I'm going to read his answer. He said, whenever a child asks me what is the meaning of life, my answer is very simple. I say, to love and be loved. So I think that's a wonderful answer to conclude this sermon with, that the meaning of life can be found by loving and being loved. So, thank you. And if you want to send me more questions by email, I'm happy to answer them.
Our closing hymn is number 295 in your gray hymnal or on the screens above. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing number 295, Sing Out Praises for the Journey.
Sing our praises for the journey, pilgrims we who carry on, searchers in the soul's deep yearnings, guide our forebears in their time. We sing out the Spirit tones in the endless human quest. Look inside your souls, the kingdom of the Lord our pilgrims do. Find the Spirit always restless, find it in each giant heart. Touch and hold that ancient yearning, yearning for a new-found truth. Stand we now above the threshold, gazing futures yet unknown. Heart behind us, place by gospel, built by those who knew what grows. Guard the endless sacred embers, buried in our minds and hearts.
There is always a new day. It may not be what you expected. You may have to collect some broken pieces and wrap them in a handkerchief to attend to later. You may have to ever so gently put fresh bandages on the wounds from the day before, to tend to your neighbor's wounds too, that may still be raw. But then again, as daylight dawns, there will be sun to warm our tired bones, and sweet air to breathe, and trees to pull our eyes upward as we gaze into the glory of possibility. Lean into that possibility. A new day is here. Amen.